I'm Dimple, Director of Publications at INDICA. On behalf of Team INDICA, I welcome you to the global online launch of our anthology, Adṛsya, Hidden Marvels of Mahābhārata. Over the last few years, INDICA has published 6 anthologies. Each one of these is the result of the creative vision of our founder, Sri Harikiran Vadlamani Garu. Each explores a different facet of the Indian civilizational landscape and brings together contributors from various regions, languages, and disciplines, some publishing for the first time and others with years of experience. We have hosted workshops, offered editorial support, and built systems that give people the space to do serious work. These anthologies were built in community. We are not chasing a single narrative. We are giving narrators room to think and write with care. This is INDICA's larger effort to support work rooted in India's civilizational frameworks across literature, scholarship, translation, and creative work. I welcome you to explore our full catalog at indica.in/books. Adṛsya, today's anthology, is the result of years of effort made possible through our collaboration with Blue One Inc. We're grateful to Banerjee and his entire team for making it happen. This anthology is curated and edited by the wonderful Aditi Banerjee. It brings together 15 authors, each reimagining the lives of Mahābhārata characters often passed over in silence. We are honored to have Dr. Vishwa Adluri, renowned Mahābhārata scholar, as our chief guest, and the erudite and gifted Sri Gautam Chikermane as a special guest. This isn't just a book launch. This is about hearing what the Mahābhārata doesn't always say out loud, the voices at the margins of the epic. Let us begin by hearing from Aditi Banerjee, the curator and editor of Adṛsya, on how the project came to be. Aditi, over to you.
Thank you, Dimple ji. Namaste. It's an honor to be here, and I'm particularly blessed and grateful to be here in the company of Harikiran ji and Vishwa, because the story of this anthology really starts with both of them. It was almost exactly 7 years ago when I received a call from Harikiran ji telling me about a 4-day workshop in Delhi that Vishwa would be leading on the Mahābhārata. And I thought it may be a little bit crazy to travel all the way from America to India for a 4-day workshop. But the truth is, I would have traveled to Mars to learn about the Mahābhārata. And it was an incredible and transformative experience of a lifetime. And I remember during those 4 days, I had no time for jet lag or to be tired or anything, because it was simply enthralling for all of us in the audience to learn from Vishwa about the Mahābhārata. And to learn about the Mahābhārata in its most essential sense as a story for not just us, but for all of humanity. And in the best tradition of the classics and the humanities, how we learn about life and human nature, our role on this planet, what is right, what is wrong, what is appropriate, and a humanistic value system that comes from the Mahābhārata. And this was something that was incredibly important for me, because as a child growing up in the US, I was very drawn to the Mahābhārata, but I had little access to it until the English translations of Sri Bibek Debroy appeared, and until I had access to the teachings of Vishwa. And so that was a very special time for me, and it opened up a commitment within me to devote my life, at least in part, to the Mahābhārata. And that was really the impetus behind this project. Why this book? Why write about the Mahābhārata at all? And I would say, for those of us who have Hindu roots or are connected to the Indic tradition, whenever we write anything creative, we're essentially writing about the Mahābhārata or from the Mahābhārata in some sense or the other. It lives in our blood and in our bones. And so the stories of the Mahābhārata play out in our imaginations and in our lives in many different ways. And for me, it was very important to explore, we can call them lesser known characters, but they are not in any way lesser important characters. And the Mahābhārata itself is like a perfect literary epic. And what I found over the years as I read through it slowly is that you can start with any moment in time, you can start with any character, any personality. And if you just pull the through line of that character's arc, or that particular place or that particular moment, the entirety of the Mahābhārata becomes revealed to you, because that is the perfection of it. If you understand any small atom of it, you understand the entirety. And by exploring these characters, we have in Veda Vyasa's masterpiece, each character has so much psychological richness, complexity, depth, and nuance, and so many lessons for us. They may not be perfect, they may not all be heroes or heroines, but they all have something important to teach us and to tell us if only we would listen. And that's why it's really important to understand these perhaps quieter voices, but no less important. And I also find that, as I mentioned, the Mahābhārata comes from this tradition of the humanities. And there was a time not so long ago, whether you were, even if you were in the West, to be considered an intelligent person, someone who had something to contribute to society, you would be expected to know the classics, to know the humanities, to know the Greek epics and these stories, because these stories tell us important things about morality and ethics and the essential human nature. And we live in a time right now where there's no more urgent need than to really delve into these questions that are often subtle and challenging. We live in a world of uncertainty, the advent of AI, geopolitical uncertainty. It's incredibly essential now to have these values and to understand these ethics and these profound lessons that the classics, including the Mahābhārata, have to teach us. And what we find is today, many of us do not have the wherewithal to necessarily read the Mahābhārata in the original to begin with. And the hope would be that by reading this book, it is a gateway to the Mahābhārata. If a reader were just to read our anthology of 14 stories and stop there, none of us would feel it has been a success. But if someone were to read these stories and then take it and say, now I want to read the original Mahābhārata, or learn more about the Bharata, or I want to recite the Vishnu Sahasranama, or I want to read the Gita, then our work would have been complete. And that is really the hope of this book. I also want to take a minute to talk about how this book came together. As Dimpleji mentioned, it was a labor that has taken place over years because we wanted to be very, very careful with it and very thoughtful with it. And so it began by sourcing stories and submissions through over a period of months. And we received an overwhelming number of responses. And they were all really, in their own ways, incredible. I had the difficult job of going through the stories and selecting them. And my criteria was really, I wanted stories that surprised me in some way, that gave me an insight, that made me think about the Mahābhārata or a particular character differently, or that made me feel differently. And each of these stories struck that chord within me. And I felt that these were important stories that needed to be shared more broadly, because other readers, whether one is new to the Mahābhārata or whether one is conversant with the Mahābhārata but still wants to delve into the ocean of its wisdom, would find something important and worthwhile in each of these stories. But the process didn't stop there. We went through rigorous rounds of editing, including with Otis Hashemeyer, who spent a lot of his time with each of us individually, going through each story, passing on very good feedback and helping shape each story into its final form. And we also went through rounds of professional editing. The authors edited each other's stories, and we spent a lot of time as a cohort of writers and learners of the Mahābhārata, spending time with each other and learning from each other. And so I'm very honored to have been part of this process and for the final product that has come out, which I hope will be as insightful and illuminating to others as it has been for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditi ji. Really appreciate you sharing the entire journey with us. Our chief guest today is Dr. Vishwa Adluri, the adjunct professor of religion and philosophy at Hunter College, City of New York. He, as we all know, is one of the foremost contemporary scholars of the Mahābhārata. His work, particularly in the Ney science and philology and criticism, both co-authored with Dr. Joydeep Bagchi, has offered a powerful critique of Eurocentric readings of Indian texts and introduced what he calls a hermeneutics of respect, an approach that takes Indian texts seriously on their own terms rather than filtering them through external frameworks. This vision of reading with care, with humility, and with rigor resonates deeply with the spirit of Adṛsya. Like this anthology, his work listens closely to what the epic says and perhaps even more closely to what is left unsaid. On a personal note, I want to say how much Dr. Adluri's work has meant for many of us who are trying to approach the Mahabharata with both reverence and intellectual honesty. His courage, clarity, and conviction continue to guide and inspire us. We're also joined today by Sri Gautam Chikermane, author, researcher, and vice president at the Observer Research Foundation. Beyond his work on economics and grand strategy, he has a deep engagement with the Mahabharata. His novel, Tunnel of Marnavat, reimagines one of the epic's turning points with both insight and intensity. As someone who has written from within the world of the Mahabharata, he brings a unique lens to Adṛsya. I request the both of them, along with the other authors and the curator and editor Aditi, to just raise the book on their small screens as a token of launch. And thereafter, we will invite Professor Adluri to say a few words. So this shows to all of you, dear audience, that both the Kindle edition and the hard copy of Adṛsya are available online for you to buy and read and spread the word. Thank you so much, Dr. Adluri. Thank you so much, Gautam ji. And congratulations, all the authors. Your work is finally launched and presented to the whole wide world. I request Dr. Adluri to say a few words.
Okay, good. So I would like to begin with honoring by name each one of you who read the book, Mahābhārata, and who got something out of it and have made an offering of it to the world. So Pranshu Saxena, Ramanjaneya Sharap, Madhavi Girish Kunte, Neena Mukherjee, Shambhavi Tripathi, S. Anuradha, Shanteri Mallaya, Shivakumar GV, Sumati Sridhar, Rajesh Ramachandar, Raghuram Sola, Sri Charan Bottu, Kavita Shankar Narayan, Paras Arthwani, and Ananya Ganesh. So you are the heroes of the moment. So many congratulations. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the most tireless Renaissance figure of our times, Harikiran Vadlamani, for making all these wonderful things happen. Without his support, we would not be here. I would like to have a friendly shout out to Aditi Banerjee, who lives, I think, maybe 30 minutes away, but I only see her once in 3 years, something we have to fix. But she's a dear friend and astute reader of the Mahabharata. She's, as it goes without saying, that she is gifted with the great art of storytelling, to which I will return. Of course, big hugs to Gautam Chikermane, and I don't see Monica there, but big hugs to Monica too. Gautam and I have become sort of friends for life. So whether we see each other or not, we are just friends for life. Whenever we meet, we pick up exactly where we left. And finally, Dimple, thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for making me a part of something so exciting. I'm very, very happy. I don't want to bore you with adding another layer of gloss onto what you have already done, but I would like to take you into the Mahabharata and show you that Vyasa has heard of your book. He has understood the short story format, and he would like to tell you something. So you should listen carefully. So we'll go to that. You can see the text here. I always use the the Van Buitenen Chicago translation. So here is the third adhyaya of Adi Parva, beginning as follows. The bard said, Janamejaya, the son of Parikshit, attended with his brothers a long sacrificial session in Kurukshetra. He had three brothers, Shrutasena, Ugrasena, and Bhimasena. As they were sitting at this session, a dog came by of Sarama's brood. As they were sitting at this session, the dog was beaten up by Janamejaya's brothers and howling mightily ran to his mother. The mother asked her yelping son, Why are you crying? Who beat you? He answered, Janamejaya's brothers beat me. The mother said again, Obviously, you did something wrong. Typical Indian mother, it must have been your fault. Something wrong here that you were beaten. The dog replied, I did not do anything wrong. I neither looked nor licked at the offerings. Upon hearing this, the dog's mother Sarama aggrieved over her son. Note the word for aggrieve, putra shokartha. It is going to turn into a whole parva, right? At the Stree parva, okay, after the war. Went to that place of sacrifice where Janamejaya was attending the long session, Satra, with his brothers. Angrily, she said to him, This son of mine did nothing wrong here. Why was he beaten? As he was beaten without doing wrong, therefore, an unseen danger will befall you. Adrishtam, unseen, from which you got the word Adṛsya. Adrishtam. When the session came to an end, he returned to Hastinapura, spent much time searching for a priest who he declared should pacify the evil I have done, Prayaschitta karma. One day, Parikshit's son Janamejaya went hunting in a lonely neck of his own domain, saw an hermitage. A seer was sitting there by the name of Shruta Shravas, related to Shruti. And what is the gift of Shruti? You get Soma. Soma is the Adṛsyam that comes from the Vedic work, Vaidika karma. And so was his beloved son, Soma Shravas. Parikshit's son Janamejaya approached the seer's son and chose him for his priest. Bowing, he said to the seer, Sir, you must be my priest. Replied the seer, Worthy Janamejaya, this son was born to me by a Sarpakanya, a snake woman. This great ascetic and accomplished student has begotten by the power of my austerities and grew in the womb of this snake woman who had imbibed my seed. He is able to appease any evil deeds you may have done, excepting the evil against Mahadeva, Shiva. But he has sworn one secret vow. If a Brahmin solicits any possession from him, he must surrender it to him. If you will bear with that, take him with you. Janamejaya replied to the seer, Sir, thus shall it be. And that Adrishta Phalam will be the sacrifice itself. And the son born of the snake woman will be Astika, will come and put an end to the sacrifice. The entirety of Mahābhārata is contained in one blinking sacrifice, short story. That is the power of Mahābhārata that you have tapped into. There's no such thing as the short story. From this short story, you see that the whole of Mahābhārata is a short story, an elaboration of it. So I congratulate you on your effort. Second point I wanted to make is the dog has appeared. Why do you think Janamejaya's brothers shooed away, beat the dog if it didn't lick. It might have licked. The puppy might have licked. What would happen if you lick the offerings? Ritual purity would have been destroyed. But after the Mahābhārata is fully churned up and Dharma's work is done, Dharma can take even a dog to Svarga. So that massive transformation of Mahābhārata's project is also contained in this little vignette. Okay, so Vyasa tells you that short stories are the way to go. So, and you've heard it from the horse's mouth, literally the horse's mouth, because Vyasa has the mouth of a horse in the Moksha Dharma part. Okay, thank you very much again for inviting me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adluri. I wish you would go on, and I'm sure everybody in the audience would
Oh,
agree.
this is a short story thing. Short.
Indeed. So thank you so much. I invite Gautam ji to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Dimple ji. It's a privilege to be here. You've given me about 10, 12 minutes. I'll stick to that. You've also told me to merge the two universes that I function in, which is the Mahābhārata and grand strategy, ancient times and modern and futuristic ideas together into one. And I just prepared a small note on that. But before that, I just want to thank everybody, mostly Hari Kiranji, who is a pillar, undying, unmoved, strong, the fundamental upon which all these discussions, all these books, ideas are now coming forth. Thank you, Hariji, for being there. Vishwa is a friend for life, but he's also my teacher. So Vishwa, the kind of insights that you gave me in that 4-day workshop that Aditi ji was talking about have remained with me, have changed my view of the Mahābhārata. I have added layers to it. I have cut some things. But the view that you gave us in those 4 days remains with me. I look forward to you. I believe you were going to come last year to give another
This
workshop.
year I'm
And
able to
I had
come.
enrolled for it.
Starting now, I can travel. I had long COVID and it really destroyed my lungs. So
Yeah, so
I have
whenever
problems.
whenever you do,
But
you know, your friend and student is willing to
Joy the
start all
Bachchi.
over again.
By the way, Hari is here. You all plot and I will come.
So I'm going to talk about, as Dimple ji told me, about the Mahābhārata, grand strategy, and the future of our age. In the Mahābhārata, individuals, communities, nations are all bound together with a goal that transcends the individual, the community, and the nation. Dharma is the dominant means, karma and artha are the intermediate ways, and moksha, the ultimate goal. We can examine the Mahābhārata as a text that is clear about where it wants to go towards moksha, although there are layers there and I don't necessarily agree with it, but moksha, how it wants to get there using karma and artha, and the means it needs to travel, which is dharma. All these three goals, ways, and means define what grand strategy is. Every individual, every group is held to the test of this goal, this path, these means. Cumulatively, individuals and communities comprise the nation. So extrapolating this thought, every country in the Mahābhārata is culturally and compellingly, but invisibly, driven towards this highest goal. Of course, there were smaller grand strategies based on petty ambitions in the Mahābhārata too. The grand strategy of the Panchalas stood on revenge as a goal, the marriage of Draupadi with the Pandavas as ways, and other alliances as means. The grand strategy of the Kuru stood on empire building. Institutions like Bhishma did not support the Kauravas simply because of loyalty. There was a deeper purpose. The Kuru empire being controlled by the Panchalas using Yudhishthir as a tool. Another major pillar of grand strategy in the Mahābhārata was Jarasandha, who had a good chance of expanding his empire until Bhima killed him. He had a plan to bring Aryavarta under his control. What he did not have was Dharma. What he did not have was Sri Krishna. Step away from individuals and kingdoms and you see how the strategic signature of the Kurukshetra was more fundamental. It was a war between centripetal forces that wanted smaller nations on the one side and centrifugal forces that sought a unifying umbrella on the other. Again, the fight for this umbrella was between those who supported the Kauravas and those who fought for the Pandavas. There was only one person who had a clear idea of the grand strategy of the time, which is Sri Krishna. He wanted to re-establish Dharma in Aryavarta. That was his goal. He saw in the Pandavas the possibilities to do so, the ways, and all alliances that signed up on the Pandava side were agencies, his means. And war, irrespective of the consequences it carried, was the institution that helped deliver it. In other words, I see the Mahābhārata as a detailed account of a material, ethical, spiritual grand strategy of conflicting values expressed through statecraft. But that time of Dwapar Yuga has passed. We are in the middle of Kali Yuga. Humanity has given up on any higher grand strategic goals. The manifestations of our problems has changed, but so has the spiritual aspiration. Today, I see the current pressure on all of us as the clenching of the jaws of Kali Yuga. We are being crushed from all sides: economic, societal, religious, familial, national, geopolitical. As a result, moksha has been edged out of all mainstream discussions. Kama and artha have become the goals for the individual, the community, and the nation alike. Dharma has been twisted to become a moral pretense. The European Union has perfected this posturing, and moksha has become the luxury of the few. In modern lexicon of statecraft, grand strategy has been narrowed down. It has been devalued to a conversation of power and force between states. The ends, the ways, and the means of grand strategy have become limited and exclusionary. They have become a zero-sum game. I win because you lose. I impose tariffs because I can and you are forced to accept. I break the rules-based international order because I'm powerful and you are not. We have moved from a sophisticated abstraction that enriched the mundane material to a point when routine has become the new dynamism, power has become a coarse ambition, and intimidation has become the vocabulary of international relations. In our quest to control power and wealth, we have become puppets in the hands of power and wealth. The Mahābhārata continues, but at the level of humanity, in the expressions of the mass, through the actions of its leaders, it is devoid of a philosophical base necessary for this growth. The fulfillment of the petty has become the highest aspiration of what we term civilization in the 21st century. This is equally a reflection of who we are as individuals and as a people, as it is of national leaderships. A millennium from today, when we become ancestors and our descendants look at their past, they would see our age as one of extreme barbarity, wearing the garb of a limited and material reason. Reason was supposed to enrich the physical, the mental being powering the physical being. But on that front, it has failed. As Sri Aurobindo puts it, reason was the helper, reason is the bar. Our descendants would see that although military conquests have reduced, the imperialism through the weaponization of technology, subjugations through the weaponization of trade, and cultural invasions through the weaponization of narratives continued. They would see how barbarism has shifted its weight from active war to an uncomfortable, simmering peace. They would see something we don't, which is the underlying barbarity that powered the age of wars has remained the same in the age of commerce. They would see how the grand strategy of humanity, including India, shifted its base from Purushartha to Apurushartha, how we gave up on Dharma, how smaller, lesser, even pathetic ideas infected the mainstream and like viruses smothered our rich and deep heritage. When they do, they would wonder just what happened between the time of Vedavyasa and today, how we as a race, as a civilization deteriorated, how we negotiated the transition into and out of Kali Yuga. In their wonder, I'm hoping they would have repaired some of the damage that we have done. So what has our civilization come to? I have three observations. First, which is something staring us in the face, it has become a me-first world. The harmonies of communities have given way to isolations of individuals. The communities of Bharat that held a people together with values had agency in its economics, its infrastructure, its festivities, its rituals has receded. In their place has come a me first, me, my family, my job, my money, my car, phone, house, my power, my position, my access. The only individuals who are united as communities are the unthinking and hyper-religious groups. They are able to steer with physical violence, mental ferocity, and moral outrage the modern discourse. From the street to the state, they monopolize ideas, they invade institutions, they force societies to regress. The others are left to react. So on the one hand, technologies are taking us forward into newer and more exciting unknowns. Violence is stealing from us the gains that technologies offer. The state is missing, the street is dominating. Second, power has become the appellate authority, not justice, not fairness, not laws, rules, regulations, not ethics, and certainly not dharma. Even in democracies, the will of the people has been hijacked within and outside. We see the rise of China that has gone rogue. And since January 2025, we see the US weaponizing tariffs against other countries. The discourse of international relations has become an epidemic of aggression, coercion, force, and war. And third, philosophy has been co-opted, either directly into the barbarism of instant quenching or indirectly through the barbarism of surface moralities driven by preachy narratives that have no spiritual rigor. The most influential philosophers today are working in the areas of feminism, critical race theory, political philosophy, not in tracking the evolution of man, the complexities of society, the emerging layers of gray amid the simplistic blacks and whites. The luxury of wealth has become a necessity of life, and new philosophers are busy aggregating political and social gains into ethical and moral treatises. From climate to welfare and security to peace, philosophers are lagging the actions of individuals, communities, and nations. It's almost like philosophy has decoupled itself from reality. In all this, our planet has lost the grandest of all grand strategies. In its place, we now have narrow arcs that are limited to governments dominated by security, underlined by economics. Deal has become the new mantra. This is going to get worse in the next foreseeable 3/4 centuries till 2100 AD. And this is the intellectual, philosophical, dharmic challenge of our age. If there is one word that we can lean on and build, build that individuals, communities, and nations revert to harmony, it is fraternity. Once we establish a new normal of peace and harmony, we need to build our civilizational discourse towards fraternity. Without an inner fraternity, there can be no freedom, no equality, no unity. We may advocate uniformity, the uniformity of processes, uniformity of institutions, uniformity of ideas, but not the defining unity of souls. Our challenge is not to copy-paste Vedvyasa's vision. It is to internalize it, isolate the external ideas in it, apply them to our current state of evolution, and express them through our thoughts, our writings, and most importantly, our actions. We need to rework them for our age, reframe them for the Kali Yuga. We need to rise from the narrow confines of interest and build a civilizational grand strategy for humanity. To borrow from the book being launched today, such a grand strategy is indeed the hidden marvel of the Mahābhārata. Given that all of you here have been touched by the Mahābhārata, this is the message I wanted to give. We are privileged. We are absolutely privileged to have entered the universe called the Mahābhārata. This privilege demands responsibility to shape a grand strategy of ideas that the future generations look up to. My best wishes to all of you who have produced this book, the author, the editor, the organization INDICA, and the silent enabler, Chikermane. We are richer because of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gautamji, and thank you for that contemporary commentary. Dear audience members, it's our endeavor, as Aditi said in the beginning, that through this book, we would inspire you to go back to the primary text and explore the beautiful world of Mahābhārata. The joy we have found therein, we wish for you as well. They say what is found here, that is what is found in the Mahābhārata, may be found elsewhere, but what is not found here cannot be found anywhere. So, with those words, we now come to the voices that form the core of this anthology, our 15 contributors. Some of them, unfortunately, could not make it to this event today because of certain urgent commitments and time zone issues. The characters that have been written about include Duhshala, Balarama, Shakuni, Barbareek, Ambalika, Madhuri, Vikarna, Pandu, Shalya, Janaka, Sulabha, Subhadra, Bhanumati, and Malayadwaja. Our authors, I would, it's my proud privilege to name each one of them. I will name them, and once I've finished reading out this list, they will one by one come and talk to us. So the authors are Pranshu B. Saxena ji, Ramanjane Sharaf ji, Madhavi Girish Kunte ji, Neena Mukherjee ji, Shambhavi Tripathi ji, S. Anuradha ji, Shantari Malya ji, Shivakumar GV ji, Sumati Sridhar ji, Rajesh Ramachandar ji, Raghuram Shola ji, Sri Charan Bottu ji, Kavita Shankar Narayanan ji, Paras Artwani ji, and the youngest amongst us, Ananya Ganesh ji. They come from many walks of life: lawyers, engineers, scientists, poets, journalists, seekers. Each one of them, as I just mentioned, will share a brief reflection on why their chosen story mattered to them and why it might matter to you, dear audience. I invite Pranshu ji.
Namaste. Shakuni, the arch villain of the TV serials, is one of the real grey characters of Mahābhārata. He is the one who makes the crossing from the forces of darkness to the forces of light. A rarity among Indians then and now, Bharatiya then and now, he changes his mind. When I was writing a story on Damayanti some years back, I was struck by the fact how Dwapar, the neutral dharma, created the stage to demonstrate her resilience, her courage, her intelligence. The same Dwapar in the next birth as Shakuni does the same for Draupadi. Draupadi and Damayanti, both Bhimpriya, daughter-in-law of goddess of perseverance Madri, and their brothers Shakuni and Shalya. And her brothers Shakuni and Shalya are in this anthology. Another aspect I was struck by was that one of the TV serials started off with a story with a phrase "Gyan ki Ganga Mahābhārata," and Mahābhārata is literally the epitome of the Ganga Avtaran, from the perseverance showed by Sagar down to generational struggle to perseverance shown by Bhagirath. I have tried to demonstrate that in my story by using the three generations of Shakuni, Yudhishthir, and Yashodhar. Dharma Niswartha, Dharma Paramartha, and Yashodhar answers the question Bibek Debroy asked while translating Mahabharata into English. Why is he fighting on the side of the side of the Pandavas while he's the son of a Kaurav? So I hope you will read our stories, discuss them, enjoy them as much as we have done writing them, and ask questions. Dhanyavad.
Thank you, Pranshu. Ramanjane ji, over to you now.
Namaskara. Thank you, Dimple ji, for the introduction. Ambalika, the third sister, is the title of my story in the anthology. Now, why a story on Ambalika, you might ask? Well, if the Pandavas are the pages of this wonderful epic called the Mahābhārata, the spine that holds these pages together are the women of the epic. One such woman is Ambalika. Now, despite the impact that she had on the course of the epic, Ambalika remained hidden in the shadows. As we say in Kannada, Ele Maraya Kai, which literally translates to fruit that is hidden by the leaf, but still it continues to be sweet. Now, Ambalika was the youngest of the three sisters, and she was the junior queen of Vichitra Virya. She also lost her husband very early, but still, her son Pandu became the Chakravarti, and her grandchildren, the Pandavas, continued to walk on the path of Dharma despite tremendous difficulties. I was very intrigued by this very little talked about woman. How did a princess who was literally the last in the pecking order become the mother of a Chakravarti? How did her grandchildren shape the entire epic and the course of the rest of Bharatavarsha in years to come? What were the events that shaped her? What impact did it have on her life and how did it shape her character? That it left its mark on the epic years later. My story explores this by focusing on the initial years of her marriage up to the birth of Pandu to shed some little bit light on this wonderful woman. As Bharata Muni says in the Natya Shastra, the purpose of all art and particularly literature is to further the understanding of the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. I hope that my story continues in this tradition through a small glimpse into the character of Ambalika. Thank you. Jai Janani, Jai Janmabhoomi.
Dhanyavad, Ramanjaneji. Madhavi ji, I request you to kindly share your reflection.
Namaste. It gives me immense pleasure to share my thoughts and reflections on my contribution towards Adṛsya. Adṛsya's opening story is known as The War Within, and it focuses on the character Duhshala, the Kaurava princess. Though she's a minor character in the epic, I was drawn towards her only for the lack of her voice. Characters like Draupadi, Kunti, and Gandhari, irrespective of the many challenges that they face in their lives, they always voice their opinion, they express their point of view. While Duhshala, with a seemingly perfect life, is neglected and relegated to the sidelines. Our society has many such Duhshalas who, despite their best efforts, are forever stuck in a dilemma. They constantly need to make a choice between the two sides that they are emotionally invested in. In this story, I tried to read between the lines that have been already written long ago. I wanted to explore Dushala's inner turmoil, her insecurities, her vulnerabilities, in a way that will hopefully resonate with my readers. I'm grateful to be part of this project called Adṛsya. Do read our stories and revert with your feedback. I hope you're as intrigued and as moved by these unheard voices as we, the authors, were while writing them. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Madhavi ji. Our next author is Neena ji. Do we have Neena ji there?
Neena ji, you're on mute.
Unmute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Namaste. Thank you, Dimple ji. As a keen student of literature and history all my life, I enjoy writing both in English and Hindi. And currently, I'm trying to delve deeper into the epics of Mahābhārata and Ramayana. I'm presently volunteering as content editor with Sangam Talks. That is my way of dedicating my time for reclaiming our civilization. The characters of Mahābhārata and the undercurrent theme of Purushartha that runs throughout the epic had a very deep impact on me. I often wondered why we did not discuss this as often in terms of women, in spite of some very strong women characters in Mahābhārata. My story is named Madri, the Passage of Dharma. Madri is the second wife of Pandu and mother of Nakul and Sahadev, as we all know. I felt that while Kunti was much talked about and had a very strong presence, Madri, in her short life journey, did not claim much space in Mahābhārata. Not too many pages were dedicated to her. Madri, as a young, naive princess, comes to this illustrious Kuru Vansha, and through her journey, she learns about the four Purusharthas, ending into a very strong move, which takes her to her liberation, it seems. That's what she hopes for. I felt that for me, Kunti and Madri's Samvad, the one I have portrayed, is very special for me, and the relationship of the two wives, and the choice of Madri as Ashwini Kumar as a father of her twins is a very interesting one and throws quite a bit light on her character. When I received my first copy of the book, just few days after that, my granddaughter was born. And I hope that someday she will read Mahābhārata and our stories. Isn't that how, through Smriti, Shruti, and now through publications, we share our Sanskriti and pass it on to the new generations? I'm so thankful to Indica and Aditi Banerjee for bringing forth my story and hope to be a part of their future anthologies. हमारी कहानियां अवश्य पढ़ें, हमसे सुने और जो पर्सनालिटीज इतिहास के पन्नों में गुम हो गई हैं, उन्हें हमारे दृष्टिकोण से जानें। धन्यवाद।
Dhanyavad, Neena ji. This is just a glimpse of the fact that our authors come from various regions, different subcultures of India, speak multiple languages. So अब मैं शांभवी त्रिपाठी जी से निवेदन करती हूँ कि वे आए और हमें संबोधित करें।
Namaste everyone, and thank you Dimple ji for the introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here at this event. Firstly, I want to express my sincere gratitude that I am a part of this incredible anthology where each character has been written with such stunning depth. As for my story, I chose to write about Subhadra, a lesser known but impactful character from the Mahābhārata. When this epic is narrated, we usually hear the stories about the fights of the Pandavas, the trials of Draupadi, or the wisdom of Lord Krishna. But the story of Subhadra is often overlooked, which is why I chose to call this story Subhadra, the Forgotten Princess. A forgotten princess who faced tough choices and whose decisions quietly shaped the course of the Great War. Subhadra, for me, is a gentle and calm voice amid the war, the screams and chaos of the war. My story will walk you through her journey, her challenges and sacrifices, and the strength behind her grace and obedience. Lastly, I want to thank everyone who has joined us today, our esteemed guests, and everyone in the audience. This is my first attempt at creative writing, and I am truly honored to be featuring alongside these incredibly talented authors, each bringing to life these stories that often go unheard. So I request all of you to please dive into this book, explore these stories, and share your feedback with us. I hope that you would love these stories as much as we have loved creating them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shambhavi. Your excitement is so palpable. Shambhavi is one of our younger members of this group. You would have realized that we have a wonderful eclectic demographic spread as well. So next author gives you an idea of our geographic expanse. So we have Anuradha ji joining us from Singapore. Anuradha ji, the podium is yours.
Namaste. Thanks, Dimple. Thanks for everybody who's attending this event and for the guests and our supporters. My story in the anthology is the debate between King Janaka and female sannyasini Sulabha. Both of them are seekers of moksha but have completely different lifestyles. Like all Mahābhārata stories, this one is also timeless. For even today, there are those who think that only sannyasis are eligible for moksha and those who think that householders are better suited for moksha. It was this conflict that made me choose these characters to write the story. In the original story, there is no winner, which means Vedavyasa wanted to tell us that both the lifestyles are valid. Please read this story and all the other stories in this anthology to understand why Vedavyasa ji included all these characters. They're wonderful. And once again, I'd like to thank INDICA for commissioning this anthology and for Aditi for curating this. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Anuradha ji. Our author, Shantari Malya ji, is traveling currently and is in such a different time zone that it's physically not possible for her to register, enter virtually and join us. So I would like to congratulate her on everyone's behalf. And I now invite Shivakumar GVG to say a few words.
Thank you, Dimple ji. Namaste, everyone. I'm Shivkumar, Director of IKS Changemakers program at INDICA. I'm an author, IKS researcher, and director of several programs at INDICA. I chose to write about river Saraswati as it appears in the Tirthayatra Parva. It is a sub-parvan of Shalya Parva. In this story, Balarama goes on the Tirthayatra on the banks of river Saraswati just before the Kurukshetra war and returns when the Gadayuddha between Bhima and Duryodhana is just about to start. The Tirthayatra Parva describes about 25 Tirtha Kshetras, its importance, and several stories associated with those Kshetras. My story describes Balarama's journey and the stories associated with those tirthas, but from the eyes of River Saraswati herself. This journey enables a transformation for Balarama. He comes back to Kurukshetra, shedding his anger and disappointment against Sri Krishna, overcomes all his frustration and his differences of opinion with him, and the choices that Krishna makes in particular. But what struck me is the nature of this journey. It's truly a walkthrough of the civilization, of our entire culture and civilization and its essence in one small suburban. Thus, a small suburban contains an epic in itself. River Saraswati may have dried up, but the story itself is an immersion into the tirtha that is Saraswati. My story presents this essence of our culture and civilization through the eyes of River Saraswati, where she becomes a character journeying alongside Balarama. Thank you all for being with us today here in this online launch of Adṛsya, Hidden Marvels of the Mahābhārata. There are 15 stories, as Dimpleji said, from 15 different authors, each bringing out a marvel. Read the book, please write to us, write a review, leave feedback for us on all platforms from where you pick the big book from. Gratitude to my organization INDICA and the vision of Sri Harikiran Vadlamani for bringing out such marvels. This marvel is now in front of you, which is no more hidden, and presented to you with full love and devotion. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Shivu. I now invite Sumati Sridhar ji to tell us something about her story and anything else that she might choose to share with the audience. Sumati ji.
Thank you, Dimple ji, and thank you entire team Adṛsya for making this happen. It's been a wonderful journey bringing this book to light, and I really hope everybody buys this book and enjoys reading it and leaves a feedback for us. My story in this anthology is centered around Pandu. Now, Pandu is often dismissed as the father of the Pandavas. We do not spend any time more thinking about him. But actually, Pandu is a very consequential character in the epic. We often forget how his actions and his destiny set a course of events that shape the epic's course and led to the eventual battle. So, in Pandu, whose life was mired in palace politics, personal insecurities, social obligations, and plain bad luck, I could find a lot of resonance. I could identify with him. His story, in some sense, seemed like our story too. Additionally, in telling the story of Pandu, I also have tried to demystify the birth of the Pandavas. So, if you're interested in knowing more about Pandu and Pandavas, I do urge you to buy this book, read it, enjoy it, and do leave us a word or two about what you think. It's not just this story, all the other stories are exhilarating reads. So, would really urge you to do buy the book, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for making this happen once again. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Sumati ji. In the beginning, I mentioned that we have created a community. That sentiment is manifested through each author rooting for the other, each author inviting you to explore the stories by their fellow authors in the anthology and not just talking about theirs. So that is the community that we aspire to build, and we look forward to new and new authors too. So I would urge you all to bookmark our website, indica.in, follow us on all our social media because there will be a bevy of announcements coming up your way soon. Our next author, who unfortunately could not make it, is Rajesh Ramachandra ji, but he did wish the event a success, and he wanted me to express gratitude to everybody who took out time to register and attend today's event. I will now invite Raghuram Sola ji to kindly speak to all of us about his story and anything else, other insights. Raghuram ji.
Namaste. The anthology marks my debut work. For this, I have chosen to write about Vikarna, a Kaurava prince who, despite his blood ties to Duryodhana, chose to speak up for Draupadi in royal court. Many modern day retellings, his courageous words are often attributed to other characters, and his voice is diminished not only in Jutsaba but also in many of the modern retellings. Many of the people does not know that such a character do exist, and I through this anthology I hope to bring him into light. This story Through this story, I am able to visit Juj Sabha incident, a pivotal chapter that represents the core conflicts between Pandavas and Kauravas, and ultimately the battle between Dharma and Adharma. In this incident, I hope to capture the internal monologue of Vikarna, his thought process, and his ultimate decision to stand up for Draupadi. I have also taken some creative liberties to establish a nuanced relationship between Vikarna and Pandavas, based on speculation that not all Kauravas are hostile to Pandavas, as we often believe. Furthermore, Vikarna's decisive battle against Bhima, despite his misgivings, to save Karna, one of the few characters he does hate, and knowing that he will be killed by Bhima and knowing that he is not his opponent, and even after his arrows ran out, he stood by and fought. That is one of the greatest valor I have witnessed in Mahābhārata. And through this anthology, I hope to bring this Kaurava prince into light. Thank you all for attending this event and reading this beautiful anthology. My heartfelt gratitude to Aditi Banerjee for choosing my story for this anthology, and my fellow others who has guided me, and I have benefited a lot from their insights. I am also thankful to Mr. Otis, who has edited my story and guided me in my um, design of the story. I thank you each and everyone for attending this event, and INDICA for organizing this event, as well as bringing this book to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Raghuji. I now invite Sricharan Botuji to come to the stage, the virtual stage, of course. Sricharanji.
Andariki Namaskaram. In this anthology, I wrote about Shalya. Why Shalya? Because Shalya is probably the most underrated and neglected character, despite being the fourth commander of the Kaurava army. He is little known, and if known at all, only as a crooked mouth who tried to put Karna down at every chance. I feel like this is a very gross injustice to his character as a whole, both with respect to his dharma and his valor. He had actually put down his personal relationships for the sake of dharma he believed in. He had given a vote to the Kauravas, although unknowingly, and chose to honor it despite loving his own nephews, the Pandavas. And we might all be put in such situations, and I'm sure most people would not choose the dharma. And for his valor, he should be talked about more, along with the likes of Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. He is the fourth commander of the Kaurava army, and really not many people know about it. Without him, there are no 18 days, only 17 days of the Kurukshetra war. So if you ask someone like when did the Mahābhārata war actually ended, they might say after Karna died. But there is another character between Karna and Duryodhana who shielded Duryodhana kind of, and that is Shalya. He is a multi-talented warrior, skilled in almost all the weapons. In fact, Karna had particularly requested Shalya to drive his chariot because he wanted to negate the charioteer of the other side. Who is that? That is Krishna himself. And I really want people to see him for what he is, not as a foul mouth, but a truly dharmic warrior and a really great warrior. And I see this anthology, and I want the readers also to see this anthology not as a first-hand source of Mahābhārata, but as a small gateway to the larger world of the Mahābhārata, where it is full of these awesome stories. And I thank all of you for coming here. I hope you all read this book. There are such great stories which needed to be told. Read them, review them, and criticize them. And feel free to reach us to us directly. Dhanyawad.
Thank you, Sri Charanji. I mean, I have obviously read the whole book, but your Shalya story is one of my favorites, to be very honest. So glad that I'm sure that what you said will intrigue readers and inspire them to get their own copy of Adṛsya. So there's one story in the book, one and only one that has two authors. So two contributing authors, one story. And both authors, as like the others, are super interesting as individuals, as professionals. One of them, who I'm going to invite next, is from Kerala. So her Paitrik Sthan is Kerala. And she speaks fabulous Hindi, primarily because her schooling was in Tamil Nadu. So this is the kind of eclectic diversity, unity that we bring to Adṛsya. It is this kind of diverse background and the rigor that the authors bring to Adṛsya. Without further ado, let me invite our very own Kavita Shankar Narayanan to share her story. And after that, Paras, who is her co-author. Kavita.
Thank you. So somewhere deep in Haryana, there is a temple. And this temple has got a massive peepal tree. This peepal tree is unique because each of its leaves have got a small hole in the center. So no, this is not due to any pest infestation or the handiwork of any human being, because even the newly sprouted leaves seem to have that hole. So there is a very interesting story behind this unique phenomena involving the hero of the chronicle that Paras and me have brought to all of you through Adṛsya. It's a story of a hero whose bravery, loyalty, sacrifice stand above everybody else, who was chosen, who had given almost everything towards this Dharma Yudh, who was chosen as one of the instruments by Lord Sri Krishna himself to mark him for his physical withdrawal from the earth. We have spoken about Ghatotkaч Putra, Barbareek, also known as Khatu Sham Baba. He is the protector of the weak and the oppressed, and he rose to this position not even by explicitly displaying his skills on the battlefield, because he never even fought the war. So let me not give you further spoilers, because the rest of the story is there in Adṛsya. So we would like to share with you how we started this journey exploring the life of Barbareek. It started during the COVID lockdown when I had a foot injury and I was confined to the bed, and it fell upon Paras to entertain me so that my morale and spirits were kept up. So he told me a lot of stories because he's a real treasure chest of stories. So some of them I've heard, but Barbareek I was hearing for the first time, and what resulted was many hours of soul-searching conversations between both of us, because Barbareek was a young lad like any other teen, ambitious, hardworking, wanting to make it big, obedient to his elders. But then what happened? You can see his complexity of the characters, something inundated with moral dilemmas, and how he rose to the position he now secured just by unconditional surrender to Lord Sri Krishna. So when we got this chance to explore his life and his philosophies even further through INDICA, we jumped up at the opportunity. And we thought, let's go into detail, because we saw a similarity with today's teenage thought processes as well. A child has an opportunity to become a hero or a villain. It all depends on whether he has access to right mentorship and if a good upbringing is provided to him. So Barbareek had the choice too. He could have become a hero, or he could have become just yielded to all sorts of temptations that he was exposed to. But
let me not spoil it for you because you need to read it. Grab a copy of Adṛsya so that you can go through it and find out what he chose, why he made that decision, and what were the thought processes running in his mind. So this is our maiden attempt at writing Indian mythology. So I'm a scientist by profession and passion. I also have a few blogs. I've authored many scientific publications, but this is my first attempt at writing Indian mythology. Paras is a serial entrepreneur, and he has taken a break from his professional life because now he's working with Sri Aurobindo Ashram, Auroville, Sri Aurobindo Society, and also Ramakrishna Mutt. So both of us are ardent devotees of Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and we try to inculcate their principles in our life. And through this Madhyam, we could see that we have explored a lot about human philosophy, the thought processes behind various time frames in a human mind as well. So today, as we stand here, on behalf of all the authors, we would like to express our gratitude to the entire team INDICA, Aditi ji, Pranshu ji, Shivkumar ji, Dimple ji for making this event happen, and to all the people behind the screens, both at Team INDICA and in our lives too. A special thanks from all of us to Otis for the evolution of this anthology and for the endless reviews we had, the sleepless nights, but all that seems so worth it when we stand here today watching our baby take off into the world, our baby Adṛsya. So thanks again. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you everybody for being here. And special thanks to Gautam ji and Vishwa ji and to Hari ji as well.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kavita. I guess you spoke on behalf of both
Yes.
Paras and yourself, but I
Huh.
insisted that Paras come and greet us, especially because from where Paras is seated, we have Sri Aurobindo's and the Mother's blessings coming at us right away. So Paras ji, all yours.
So basically, like Shivan and the mother, like you can say, are the guiding pillars of my life. And this Khatu Sham, you can say, the Barbareek is better known as Khatu Sham. So the three arrow symbol has been like very prominent for me because in my college days, like whenever like I used to ask for lift because the college was very far away from my home. So this three arrows, this has always remained with me because जब भी वो दिखती थी गाड़ी तो I know कि मुझे lift मिल जाएगी. So like his presence is always there and that has been my guiding pillar of my life because I know कि like जब वो तीन arrow दिख गए ना तो हारे का सारा like he is there with me and he is like orchestrating the entire show. So all the best for this and thank you all for me.
Dhanyavad Paras, Dhanyavad Kavita. I would now invite Madhavi. Why Madhavi again? Because the youngest member of our group, Ananya Ganeshi, who wrote about Duhshala, she'd had to step away at the last moment due to an urgent commitment. So, but she wanted to be here vicariously. So she shared a note for all of us, and I would request Madhavi ji, who's also written about Duhshala, to read it on Ananya ji's behalf. Madhavi ji.
Namaste again. It is with pleasure that I share Ananya's message with the audience today. She writes, and I quote, Ananya Ganesh is a college student studying biology, and she likes to write about virtually everything from creative writing to academic and research-heavy work. The story was first drafted when she was 15 and is her first published work. She chose to write about Duhshala because of the uniqueness of her position as the overlooked sister among 100 brothers, while simultaneously being the beloved and only daughter of a powerful queen. The resultant binary created a deeply interesting study of a woman, one who carries the burden of expectations as well as insecurity, married to a man who respects neither. Ananya's story looks at Duhshala as she navigates through several seemingly innocuous moments in her life that turn out to be emotional flashpoints, eventually culminating in a fiery outburst as she finally comes into her own as a strong woman. Duhshala, additionally, is marked partly by a series of relationships and interactions with many of Mahābhārata's most complex female characters, and her story explores the impact of these relationships upon her, ultimately asking the question, how far can a single woman be pushed before she breaks? Anina is deeply grateful to have been chosen alongside a group of such brilliant writers and to be a part of this anthology with its publication. She hopes more attention is eventually garnered by these voices in order to better examine the stories they have to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhaviji. That was very gracious on your part. Before we move to the Q&A session, this is an opportunity for the audience to engage with the authors and also ask questions if they wish to from our chief guest, our special guest. First and foremost, while the speakers were making their remarks and all, there were a lot of folks who congratulated them, some congratulated the group, some congratulated people individually because people were busy speaking. So I have expressed gratitude on behalf of the entire group. So thank you so very much for your wonderful wishes. And some people have asked where they can get their copy of Adṛsya. I've also posted the Amazon link for them to buy it. And if you go to INDICA's website, it features prominently on our books section. I will also make sure that the recording of this particular event, the one that we are having now, is sent to all 250 plus folks who registered for this event. Some of them could not join us live, unfortunately, but the recording will be shared with them, as will be the Amazon link for them to buy the book should they feel inspired to do so. We have time for questions and so there is a question, of course, one from Nayantara ji. I would request other audience members to also post their queries. So since there was so little information about these characters, ask Nayantara ji, what sources did the authors use and how much creative liberty is taken with this? Aditi, would you like to go first and then perhaps any of the authors could just chime in?
Sure. So I would say, of course, the primary source is the Mahābhārata itself, but as several of the authors have noted, some creative liberties were taken. So this should not be taken as a primary source of what is in Veda Vyasa's Mahābhārata. Sometimes there are other textual sources or regional traditions, oral transmissions, folklore that comes. I think what is important in striking that balance between what I'd say creative engagement with the Mahābhārata and avoiding distortion. Ram had actually mentioned this, that the test of a literary work is it should illuminate dharma, artha, kama, moksha. And so there's the purushartha, there are the values of the Mahābhārata, there's the underlying ethos of what's in the itihasa. And so I think if a story explores that, elucidates that, is inspired by that, then it carries on the Mahābhārata tradition, even though there is inherently some creativity to that. But I'd welcome input from the authors as well.
Would
So,
any of the authors like to go
yes.
first?
So, for example, the stories of Mahābhārata have influenced Indian literature across the ages, from Vasudev Hindi to even Jatakas and later on. So, Ala Khand has some details about the character I used. Skand Puran has details about Barbareek, and Bhavashya Puran has a lot of details also. So has Vayu Puran and Brahman Puran. So those are also the sources, as well as the Ala Khand, basically the local folk local Puran of the Uttar Pradesh, the Ganga belt, is another example we have used.
Dimple ji, can I say something?
Ram had his hand.
Of course, please.
Yeah. So generally, the creative liberty that is part of the Indian tradition is to indulge in metaphors or metaphoric emphasis that throws light on a specific dimension of the original. So, for example, in Kannada, the Kumaravyasa Bharata, brings a special devotional dimension to Mahābhārata, which is understated in Vyasa's Bharata. In my own story, In Tirthayatra Parva, Saraswati river is not personified. Balarama merely goes on the banks of river Saraswati, and stories happen and stories are narrated. While in my story, I have personified Saraswati, and she becomes a character to pronounce certain aspects. So this is the kind of creative liberty that most of the authors have assumed.
Dimple ji, can I just add a little bit?
Of course, but could you just give me a minute? I'm afraid Dr. Adluri has to leave for he has a class. Sorry, Professor Adluri, there was a question for you earlier during the conversations that we were having. Do you think you would be able to spare a minute or two to answer that question? If you could just unmute yourself. I have DM'd the question to you
I
for
have 10 minutes, so you can ask the question.
So,
How can writers best serve the exploration of Mahabharata when writing stories of historical fiction? I think you've already done it, haven't you? I mean, all the authors are sitting in front of you. That is how you do it. A.K. Ramanujan had said that no one reads the Mahabharata for the first time, that you already have some idea about what the Mahabharata is. You are familiar with the Mahabharata is basically the mother of our culture. Whatever we call Hindu is based in the Mahabharata. So in that, as we grow up and as we become persons with certain histories and personalities, certain characters begin to resonate with us. And then you should read that. But not just for characters. For example, in the Mahabharata, there is very little text in the first person. Characters don't talk in the first person as much. They're narrating other stories, other dialogues within which other people are saying other things, right? So it is in modernity, everything becomes first person narrative. I thought, I opined, I felt, I think. So that modern subjectivity has its great points, but it also can be limiting. So when you're reading Mahabharata, you will be trained as you read it over and over, you'll be trained in those complex narrative complexities, how to be able to crunch time, how to be able to expand time, how to focus in, how to zoom out. For example, the entire Subhadra story is just very, very brief in the Vyasa Mahabharata. It becomes a little Sanskrit Mahabharata, it becomes a little expanded in the scripts, Telugu edition adds a big story to it. So there is no shortcut to actually reading the text. And that is the biggest blessing of all, because it's such a big book, but it is such a beautiful book that reading it over and over or reading sections, and because it's also episodic, as one of you pointed out, you can just start anywhere and pick up any story and read. So that's my answer to how to do fiction based on the Mahabharata.
Thank you, Dr. Adluri. Ramanjaneji, you wish to add to the earlier commentary that was shared by other authors. I invite you to just share the point you were trying to make, and thereafter we'll take one more question, and then we'll try and wrap up.
Thank you, Dimpleji. So the debate about creative liberty regarding the epics and Puranas is a very hot debate. So the point I want to make is the authors in this anthology, what they have done is not take a creative liberty, but they have taken an explorative liberty. Now, what is the difference? When Kalidasa takes the character of Shakuntala from the Mahabharata and creates Abhignana Shakuntalam, that is creative liberty. He created a beautiful epic from that. But when Goswami Tulasidasa takes the Ramayana and composes the Ramacharitamanasa, that is not creative liberty, but that is explorative liberty, because he takes one aspect of the epic, which is bhakti, and then he expands on that. So the authors of this anthology, what we have done is taken a particular character and then explored that character within the bounds of the Mahābhārata. They have tried to interpret that using the clues which are there within the epic itself. So I would say that in the case of this epic, the authors have explored the character's agenda and not brought in the author's agenda. So I would say that therefore this furthers our understanding of the epic without distorting it. So that's the 2 cents that I had to make.
Thank you. There is time to take this one question by the gifted Sai Swarupa ji. Can some authors explain their process of creativity, the journey of cultivating that intimacy with the story and the people of Mahābhārata? It would be a good exchange on creative liberty, she says. So what we do, a couple of you could keep the intervention short, and we will reach out. So the questions that we are not able to address today, we'll make sure that we reach out to you and address those. So who amongst you wonderful authors would like to respond to Sai Swarupa ji? Anybody, please unmute and...
Kumar wants to.
I would
All
like
right.
to respond.
Absolutely.
I think one of the ways in which I look at Mahābhārata is to imagine the journeys of characters which is spread across multiple parvans into a singular journey. Even the journey of Bhishmacharya is significantly distributed across, across multiple parvans, and often you don't imagine all of that as a single journey. There are several stories in Shanti Parva and Anushasana Parva that actually illuminate on the main characters of Mahābhārata, which are completely absent in the earlier parvans. So this back and forth journey helps you imagine not just the journey of a single character, but also the relationship of that character with other characters. So, so this weaving through the character across parvans is one way of developing a process of creativity. The other is very obvious one, that is when you go into each of the parvans and read all the philosophical verses, the kind of light it throws is just simply amazing. For instance, there is this story called Yaja and Upayaja story in Mahābhārata, where it gives a philosophical background to how Draupadi was born, while the intention was actually to beget Drishtadyumna. It throws a lot of light into the character of Drupada himself and Drona. And it also gives a philosophical view of how creativity happens, how creativity is viewed, how creation is viewed in Mahābhārata. So reading all the otherwise neglected chapters, which are actually philosophical grounding for the actual main story, is how a dimension of creativity emerges. So I always look forward to reading to those understated chapters to get new light from Mahābhārata.
Thank you, Shivakumar ji. Surela Chakraborty ji has asked, I believe sometimes the line between facts and fiction blur. What do our authors think about this? I guess Sumati wanted to have a go. Sumati ji, would you like to answer this one? Kindly come.
Yeah, facts and fiction. Actually, to continue with the previous question, I would just like to connect it with the previous question. When you're internalizing this character, when you're reading it, as Dr. Adluri pointed out, when you're reading it again and again, they become a part of you. These characters start to speak to you. You start to hear their voices. So the the difference between fact and fiction blurs there. This is your reality. This is what you are presenting. So that is how I would describe my process, and I hope it answers this question also to some extent.
Thank you so much, Sumati. We are at 6:28 and we would have loved to take more questions. Perhaps one of these days when we hear from you at namaste@indica.org.in that you guys have read the book and there's a group of readers keen to have an author interaction, we'll be mighty pleased to organize a similar session for you. But the prerequisite is that you should have read the book and come prepared with your queries. That we can certainly organize. Let me see if there's any other. Okay. There's a beautiful comment, remark by Professor Adluri. Brahman is fact, Jagat is fiction, Mahābhārata is fiction that is aware of itself as fiction, and that is why it is neither myth nor history, but fact. So beautifully said for all of us.
Conscious.
No other question I can see, but please feel free. Okay, so Reela is agreeing with us, so that's great. No questions. Okay. So thank you everyone of you who joined us, our speakers, our contributors, our chief guest, our special guest, all of you, dear members of the audience, people who registered, people who turned up to show your support. It means the world to us. This anthology is part of INDICA's ongoing commitment to Indian knowledge, traditions, and culture. If you haven't picked up your copy of Adṛsya yet, we sure hope that you do. Please read it, please share it, please review it, and help us keep these stories alive rather. We'll be sending out the recording, as I mentioned, and other details by email for you. So if you have any queries, feel free to respond to us on that email ID itself. And before I leave, I would like to announce, and I would request my colleague Koti Garu to project this announcement. INDICA has been conducting a number of online symposiums over the last few years. Our 41st symposium will be organized a week from now, Saturday, the 26th of July, 2025. It is a day-long event and it is studies on traditional retellings of Mahābhārata. So I'm guessing that our audience will find that symposium amazing too. We will have scholars, researchers, enthusiasts participating in it. So please look out for our announcements online and make sure that you attend as participants. The events are recorded and we share the recordings on our YouTube channel. Namaste and thank you to all of you once again. And till we meet you in another event sometime soon. All the very best. Namaskar.